Tonight, reflections on growing up black in America. Not me, my guests. I think that's fairly self-explanatory to start the welcome in to my state of mind. I am Dan York. Got that Monday funky thing going on. I'm honored that you're watching, though. Thank you very much for doing so. Yeah, tonight, Ricardo Pitts-Wiley. I saw the promotion or the story about his mixed magic theater performance of Reflections, growing up black in America. If it was so easy, everybody would do it. That's all part of the marquee. And I thought, we've had enough conversation. Actually, we've never had enough conversation about race relations in America, but I thought it would be good to give him a little bit of a promotion and to hear what he's thinking. We've had another tough week that way, so we shall do so. Welcome in. Let us go to the rundown and see what we've got on the news item today. And speaking of those relations, a protest in Providence from the aftermath of Baltimore. Then a question that I ask, this Texas shooting thing is just, it's a whole puzzle to me. It really is. There are ongoing PawSox talks we've learned from newsmakers this particular weekend, and we'll reflect on that shortly. The superintendent of schools in Providence has quietly resigned, which is surprising. She was a pretty steady force, I think, and yeah, I am 3 of the last 4. And what? Well, stay tuned, you'll find out. Let's dig in. Disarm the police. Yeah, that's one of the themes of this get-together in Providence on Saturday. The headline in the Providence Journal, marchers add their voice, and I'm always supportive of that. First Amendment is a beautiful and wonderful thing. Here are some snippets from Saturday's events.
This has been going on for quite a while, and it's unfortunate that it took to this point for something else to happen.
This is about the fundamental relationship that communities of color have with their police departments.
There are certainly issues around the country, and we're not perfect, but I would say overall our relationships are pretty good. In fact, I'd say they're very good.
Police accountability is important, police professionalism is important, and black lives do matter.
Jim Vincent, NAACP president, the gentleman before that, Chief Hugh Clements, and some of the organizers in this event. Hey, listen, talk is good. Protesting is fundamentally good. No crazy shenanigans in this one. The police kind of made sure no one jumped on 95, even though the point was not to jump on 95 this time around, which is fine. But credibility is important as well. And one of the themes to organize was to call for the disarming of police officers, which is just not very credible. It's okay. It's just a day in the life. Do you have to? Do you have to do this? This headline is it's just tough, man. And what are they doing? Outside Muhammad cartoon contest. Just think of it, the Muhammad cartoon contest. I keep scratching my head. Why? I get it, but why?
Police swarmed a conference center near Dallas Sunday night and killed 2 gunmen who opened fire on a security guard. The FBI says one of them is Elton Simpson, who has been investigated for possible ties to terrorism. It happened outside a contest to draw cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad.
Obviously, they were there to shoot people.
Authorities have not said if the shooting is connected to the event. A controversial group called the American Freedom Defense Initiative sponsored the contest in Texas. It was held in the same location where a pro-Islamic conference took place earlier this year.
Authorities have said there's not necessarily, they haven't confirmed there's a connection to the event, the shooting. Wait, hello? Of course there is. I get it. The American Freedom Defense Initiative is trying to make a point here. They have this contest to draw pictures of Muhammad, Charlie Hebdo, repeated. They have the right to do that. I get it. And I get it. Gunmen are criminals of the worst kind. I get it. But I don't know what they're trying to prove, other than gunmen of the worst kind might surface if there's enough publicity for something that brings insult to Islam. Radical Islamists will react with guns, perhaps, possibly. 99.9999% of Muslims in America just say, oh, come on, really? Do you have to? So you tell me, your state of mind, tell me what the reason for all of that is. Anyway, ongoing PawSox talks, always keeping you informed as to what's happening. Newsmakers had Secretary of Commerce Stefan Pryor on, and he said, yeah, you know, the current ask by the PawSox is definitely off the table, but then he did a little rah-rah speech.
$120 million of public investment over 30 years without some of these other conditions and without making a fairer deal for the Rhode Island taxpayer, that's tough. There was a big mistake made in the case of 38 Studios, but we can't lose our nerve. As a result of one very big mistake, we can't lose our nerve. On behalf of the people of Rhode Island, we need to keep investing and keep charging ahead to create an economy that works.
You know what Mr. Pryor, who's brand new in Rhode Island, doesn't understand. I never thought I'd get to the place where I would be telling new people in Rhode Island. I'm here 15 years now, so I guess I've crossed the line to be able to say, hey, what you don't understand about Rhode Island is the following. But even the governor and I talked about this last week. The administration needs to understand that as they invest money in projects that make people feel like it's 38 Studios, they're not, but it makes them feel like that. It's because the hangover continues, because we haven't purged 38 Studios from our system with accountability and closure. And until we do, all the rah-rah speeches in the world, Mr. Secretary. Welcome to Rhode Island, by the way. Please come to the show. We'll talk about it. Won't work. Super's gone. The superintendent of the Providence Schools is hitting the happy trail. This news came down on Friday. We're not reacting on Fridays to the news on the rundown generally because we're bringing you a different kind of show, so we didn't get a chance to talk about this. But Dan McGowan, ace reporter for Providence on WPRI.com, came to the TV set to explain what he thought might be going on here.
Mayor wishes her the best. She says she wants to spend more time with her family. What we do know is that there has been some issues with the school budget. The mayor wanted to level fund the school district this year using city money, and I think there was some frustration. We know the school board president voted against that, doing that. So I think there was a little bit of frustration. On the flip side, we also know that there's an audit coming from the mayor. The mayor's been pretty vocal about how he really wanted to really look into the school district. And so we know that's coming, but again, all that would be speculation.
Now, Dan also pointed out, and it's true, she stayed perhaps the longest stint here for a superintendent in the city of Providence for a while. She's been here a handful of years, and she's generally well regarded. So why she's leaving, you know, the family time thing is always the diplomatic excuse or reason. We'll see if we can't find out what the real one is in the near future. And yeah, 3 out of the last 4. I have hit the Derby trifecta 3 out of the last 4 years. And I hit it again this past weekend. American Pharoah, firing line, but as you see, Dortmund, who I bet to win, is holding on to 3rd. Roll it, Kevin. I'm screaming for him to hold off the 4th horse. See the 4th horse there? Oh, the 4th horse didn't get there, so I'm all pumped up. I'm like, yes! I've got the triple! But the 4th horse was Frosty, who I also had in the triple, and who was 15-1 versus 3-1. So I was arguing against my own financial well-being there. Not that that has anything to do with the finish. And then I realized, you idiot, you picked the first 4 horses in the race in your triple box. Why didn't you play the superfecta? At least that would have cash flowed. $101 for the trifecta this time around. The Dan New York state of mind did not profit. Your state of mind is important to us. 228-1886. Email me at stateofmind@myritv.com. Facebook post, tweet, Dan York Show. Don't forget the E. On the PawSox, which is a chronic conversation around here, Sharon from Newport needs to get a few things off her chest.
Something being left out of this whole PawSox move to Providence. My kids grew up going to the PawSox game in Pawtucket. They're not the Providence Red Sox. They're the Pawtucket Red Sox. What people are forgetting is that Pawtucket, that's the livelihood of Pawtucket. Maybe I don't live up there anymore, but I drive from Newport to Pawtucket just to go there to see the PawSox game And I'm not the only one. I'm so disgusted with the PawSox right now. And the other thing they're forgetting is when they move, what's going to happen to that poor family, not so rich family, who wants to take 3 kids, 2 adults to a cheap game of baseball? It's not going to be so cheap anymore, is it? A lot of kids are going to miss out. And I feel bad for them future kids because they had to take it away from Pawtucket.
We're glad you were able to vent, Sharon. We'll just leave it there. Vent away at 228-1886. When we come back, reflections on growing up black in America. Stay with us. You know, local theater is about entertainment, but it can be about a whole lot more. You know, there are themes and messages and stories to tell and learning to be had and all that kind of thing. And this may be one of them for you. And the nice thing is, we saw it in the paper and we thought, oh, we got to get this gentleman in here. Truth is, he's got another run for this play, which is great. In a play about the past tensions of today's surface. And Ricardo Pitts-Wiley is the man you see there, and he's the man that you see here. Welcome. Great to have you.
Glad to be here.
So you got a little theater of like 90 seats on Middle Spring Avenue in Pawtucket,
That's
don't you?
correct. Okay, we do. Mixed Magic Theater, we moved into the space about 1.5 years ago. And we you know, like all nonprofit theaters in general, you know, it's a struggle to keep our doors open, but we're very devoted to what we're trying to do, and we're devoted to our audience, and we're devoted to the artists who come through the program looking for an opportunity to develop their skills.
So give me a 30-second resume, because I want to talk about the play itself. Right. But you are from here?
No, I'm from Detroit,
Okay.
near Detroit, and I came to Rhode Island almost 40 years ago to be an actor at Trinity Repertory
You can
Company.
say you're from here if you've been here 40 years. I think you're allowed to do that.
I think in Rhode Island, if you're not born here, you're always a visitor.
No kidding.
But I came here to work at Trinity Rep, and after a few years there, a great experience. I knew that I had to carve my own path out, and after I got married, my wife and I decided that this is what we wanted to do. She's a co-founder, Bernadette is a co-founder of Mixed Magic Theater. And after a little time in San Diego and then coming back here, we raised 2 boys in North Kingstown, where we had a theater program also. And I'm infected with the disease of my father to serve my community. And he was a political activist and a civil rights activist, and a big proponent of the NAACP in his time. And it just, I just have always been involved in trying to do something for the community.
All right, so you were writing this, you wrote this play.
I did.
All right, Growing Up Black in America, and you were telling me prior to this, Ricardo, that to taping, that you're writing this anyway. All hell's been breaking loose over the last few months.
That's true.
From Ferguson to Staten Island to now Baltimore.
That's right.
But you've been in this conversation already.
A long time, for the last 30 years. And actually, Reflections is drawn from 4 other shows that I had written over that 35 to 40 year period of time. But it was time to bring a lot of that material together in one theme. And that theme was about, what is the experience of being an African American? Not just an African American, because growing up black in America and growing up African American in America are very different experiences.
Uh-oh.
And
tell me about that.
Well, as an African American, it's a unique. You are the product of a unique history, African American. But growing up black in America doesn't necessarily mean that you're African American. Many people in this culture are treated as black. Some people don't even know they're being treated as black, or they don't accept it. But being black can be a lot of things.
Like what?
Poor, disadvantaged, other than white, undereducated, underrepresented. A lot of things make a person fit into the category of how you're being treated, or how the culture accepts you or
Does that connote that black means negative?
Not necessarily. See, that's the problem. That's what we're trying to shift in the theater. We're trying to say black shouldn't be dealt with as negative. It's a certain kind of social reality, but I resist the idea that black means negative. In fact, that's why I wrote, one of the reasons I wrote the play. Black can be beautiful, black can be positive, black can be powerful, black can be a lot of things, but when it is used as a negative, it becomes a political bludgeon for some people, and you have to resist it. When I accept my blackness, I become a much fuller person, and a much better person too.
Are there people in America and in this community who are black and don't accept it?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Or they're treated as black and don't accept it. They're treated as the negative black and don't accept it. I mean, there are plenty of people in this community across the country who are poor, undereducated, underwater, underpaid, overtaxed, underrepresented, and don't really know how to deal with it. As an African American in particular, there's a certain thing that I just understand. Sometimes I expect it, but I never learn to accept it. And but I think recent events have brought many of these issues to the fore. The fact that there's a wealth disparity in this country is a major issue. I mean, if you're one of the 99%, then you're in that group together with people who are not getting a fair share of the wealth of this country. Where I grew up in Detroit in the late 50s and early 60s, I remember the middle class. I remember black middle class families working in factories, union jobs, making 2 good incomes, sending their kids to college, buying homes, buying cars, doing all of those things. I remember that.
How did it go away? How did it deteriorate?
You know, I wish I had a quick and easy answer for that, but I think part of the reason it went away was because it became in vogue to be super rich. You know, an example of when a country is in trouble economically is when the lottery systems come into play, because the lottery gives people an unrealistic opportunity to be super rich, but it's not really addressing the core issue of there's disparity happening, and when you have to offer a false promise in order to keep people engaged, you have a problem as a country. And look around the world and look how many nations had lotteries before the United States had a lottery. They were all dealing with issues of wealth disparity, and you know, part of what we do in the theater is we say you need to look at the total picture. What's happening in your culture? And you know, and you can't be reactionary. Whenever the theater becomes reactionary, as things percolate to the top, you're very popular. But as soon as they die down, you're not popular anymore.
All right. Well, I had a funny feeling that I was going to have that I have a riveting guest. This is what makes the half-hour show feel frustrating to me. We come back, at least I want to pump up the idea that you can see the current play one more time, and there's another production going. And then I'm going to invite my guest to the radio, because we got a lot to talk about. Stay with us.
Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
There is another side called justice. And justice is really love in calculation. Justice is love correcting that which revolts against love.
Just some of what you might find at the Mixed Magic Theater, Rhode Island, on Middle Spring Avenue. Ricardo's agreed to come in on the radio tomorrow because this conversation is a listening one for me. We need to listen more to each other. We just need to listen a little bit more. We need to shut up and listen.
That is so important.
I really feel that way. So, because I'm frustrated over how frustrated everybody is, and I think I have a responsibility as a First Amendment catalyst to just set up listening. So come on in on the radio tomorrow, okay? So between noon and 3 on WPRO, we'll figure out which time. We'll probably do an hour or two, so make an appointment. So we don't have enough time to, and I want to have you back on television. I think we found another friend on television because you really are a thinker. But I want to help your business and your. So let's talk. You do a lot of stuff at the theater, correct?
We do a lot of things at the theater.
Put up this, Kev. Can you put up? Not to interrupt. I want to just make sure we get a couple of notes here and promote the right stuff. The first one is a continuation of the Reflections play, which is Growing Up Black in America. And if it was easy, everyone would do it. We'll have to talk about that. But anyway, you're going to repeat your performances May 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at 7:30. That is the Memorial Day weekend, is it not? Or
that's prior to the Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. All right, good.
And we're at AS 220 downtown Providence.
Okay, you got to move it.
Well, for that show, yeah, because we're opening Frankenstein at our own theater during that same time.
Oh, good for you. So you're running Frankenstein. Now, this is not a social discussion. This is the real Frankenstein?
This is an adaptation of Frankenstein based on the actual story. And but in order to make it relevant, particularly for a contemporary audience, you have to do certain things to point up aspects of the show. Frankenstein is not not the traditional monster movie that people think it is. It's about personal responsibility. It's about ethics. It's about treatment of people. It's about the nature of the otherness. It's about things that when Mary Shelley wrote the novel in 1818, it was a science fiction novel. But when you read it, it is about everything that is happening, particularly in our country today.
All right, listen, you are a thinker. I can tell you are a thinker. You are a thinker. You're a thinker. Give me 30 seconds on Growing Up Black in America, and if it was easy, everyone would do it. Just give me a 30-second tease, and we'll talk more on the radio about it tomorrow.
Reflections is about see me. If you really want to understand about my life and what I do and how I grew up and my experiences, you've got to come and see it. You have to experience that I'm a total human being. I'm not what you see on television. I'm not what you read about in the newspapers. I'm not a 30-second news bite. I'm a full person who lived a full life with thoughts and dreams and aspirations, and sometimes anger and sometimes frustration. But in order for us to have a really effective dialogue on race in America, if we don't start by seeing each other, there'll be it will not be effective, and it won't last. And Reflection says, not only do I look at myself, you need to look at me, and I need to look at you too.
Well, we've featured AS220 on a number of times here, so see that May 21st and 22nd, 23rd. Put that in your calendar. And I'm going to ask Ricardo to come in on the radio tomorrow, probably about 1 o'clock. We're noon to 3 here on WPRO. We'll catch up on the news of the day at noontime, and then we'll sit back and have a conversation, do some listening. Honor to meet you. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. One more thing. We come back. Stay with us. Really, we got to do some more listening. And I think it would be interesting to hear Ricardo. So tomorrow on WPRO at 1 o'clock, tune in and we'll have a good conversation. We'll be back here tomorrow night at 7:30, of course, and 11:30 on IRI TV with Daniel State of Mind. Thanks for watching.